Never judge a brand by their transfer paper because it can straight up go either way. So yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be showing you different transfer papers and whether they've survived months and even years of wearing and multiple washes. So all of the transfer papers that I've showcased on my channel, I will be showing you what they look like today. So some of these go back only 7 months while others go way back like almost 3 years. So that's definitely a long time to figure out whether some of these transfer papers are actually worth it or not and if they actually hold up. And some of the brands that I'm going to be talking about are Avery, Photo Paper Direct, Nufun, Starcraft, and Transourdream. And for 4 of these, I'm going to be talking about the light materials version and the dark materials version as well. So if you're curious to see how all of these transfer papers and their shirts look now, then let's get started. Starting off with my oldest transfer paper t-shirt. This one is from July of 2020 and this is the Photo Paper Direct for light materials. So this one, after being pressed and after the first wash, it still remained intact. There wasn't really any lifting, and even after wearing it multiple times, it was still on there. No lifting, none of that. But I will say after it's been almost 3 years, so after so much wearing, a crack did appear and I didn't really like that crack, so I ended up wearing it to sleep. And here it is after that, almost the 3 years. So because of wearing it to sleep, all these cracks started to come out because obviously when you sleep, you toss and turn and this is stretching, so obviously it's gonna happen. So it's partly my fault, but it's still semi-survived, because it did last a while without all the cracks, But yeah, you see the cracks going on and that's because of the stretching. And I can even peel it, but I'm just gonna let Jack and Rose just do their thing, But yeah, definitely not bad for it not peeling the first time. Next up, we have Avery for light materials. This one is also from July of 2020. And this one, in the original video, after I gave it its first wash, the transfer did lift. And I didn't want to wear that shirt regularly, so I used it as PJs. And of course, after using it as PJs, it cracked. It lifted even more. And I didn't really like the look of it, so I just ended up peeling it off. And here it is after that. As you can see, only the bottom and the top survived. I did try my hardest to peel it with tweezers, but they were holding on for dear life. So all of the parts that were peeled off obviously got taken out, but everything else remained intact even after multiple times of wearing this. I use this to sleep. I wash it all the time and look at these. Still going strong, so at least part of it is still going, But yeah, overall, this one right here didn't really survive. Next up, we have this one from November 2020, and this one is also PPD for light materials. This one, in the original video, it ended up lifting after the first wash, and it was a big lift that was happening. A lot of the transfer was peeling, and I just ended up peeling it all off because I was like, this is a good shirt. I'm not about to waste it on this transfer that doesn't even work. So here it is after that. There's really nothing you can see. There's still the staining of the transfer. You probably can't even tell on camera, but it stained it yellow. So there's yellow stains right there, and right there you can slightly see the little circle that was going on. So there's still some adhesive left behind of the transfer, but you can't really even tell unless you're really looking. But yeah, this is where the transfer used to be, and clearly it's not there anymore. Next, we have this PPD for dark materials, and this one is also from November 2020. And this one was fine after it was pressed and washed. Only the sides lifted up a little bit. But after some time, I ended up not really liking it. So I just went ahead and peeled it. I was like, it is what it is. I'm going to peel it. So I did. And even though everything came off with the peeling, the staining that the transfer calls the t-shirt, it's still there. Even after me washing the shirt multiple times, it's still there. Luckily, the shirt is pink, so you can't really tell. But the staining is definitely still there. And here's how the shirt looks now. Obviously, I couldn't let this shirt go to waste either. Had to go ahead and give it a little makeover. So this shirt right here is from The Best HTV. So here it is, BSB for life. So there we have it. So clearly, those 2 transfers didn't survive. Next up, we have StarCraft for dark materials, and this one is from July of 2021. This one, in the original video, it pressed nicely, it survived the first wash, and here we have it almost 2 years later, still going strong. There's barely any lifting. The only things I will say, it is very sensitive when it comes to the way it folds. So if you were to fold it, just kind of crease it up a little bit, that crease is just gonna straight up be there. So you kind of have to be careful with the way it folded because it seems to be very sensitive. And I did start to notice that there seems to be a little bit, you probably can't even tell on camera, some sort of particles missing on the photo. So you just see white spots happening. So I feel like maybe after a year, maybe even 2 years, those spots are gonna start appearing more. I feel like it's the image just coming off. But other than that, dude, for 2 years, it's still looking good. No issues. So yeah, no issues with this one. And then we also have the StarCraft for light materials. This one is also from July of 2021. And as you could tell, this one was a fail from the beginning. And here we have it almost 2 years later, still a fail. But even though it was a fail in the beginning, like whatever was left is still sticking on for dear life. So I feel like if the light materials would have actually stuck the way it was supposed to, it would have still been going strong right now. But clearly that was not the case. Definitely a fail with this one. So these next few are from March of 2022, and these are all for light materials. So first up we have Avery. This one right here, it pressed well, it washed well. And here we have it a year later. As you can see, there's some cracking going on. I do wear this t-shirt to sleep, so that would explain why. But yeah, there's some cracking. It straight up just feels like if I were to peel it, it would come off. But yeah, definitely some cracking. As you can see, transfers aren't supposed to be stretched. And when you're sleeping, obviously you're tossing and turning, so you're stretching it. There's cracks going on, lifting going on. This section right here, I will say though, seems to be intact. It's only like this part right here that's just straight up cracking. I guess too much stretching, you know? This next one is the PPD. This one in the original video lifted after the first press, and it did bleed after the first wash. And here we have it almost a year later. The lifting is just getting worse and worse, especially in that corner right there. This was the corner that ended up lifting after I pressed it. So it's just getting bigger and bigger. And then as you can see, she has some particles in her face. And even if I try to take it out, it just seems to be stuck on there. So it's kind of weird. Like, it's easy to take out the transfer, but when it comes to it sticking, it just straight up sticks there, which is weird. And then this one, you can see the cracks going this way. Even when you stretch it, it obviously shows the cracks, but when it comes to coming back into the picture, like forming back, you still can see the cracks. Unlike the Avery, once the picture comes back, you can't really see the cracks. So this one definitely does not hide the cracks as well as the previous one. Then we have Starcraft, and this one from the beginning was a fail as well. And here we have it a year later, still a fail. Whatever was pressed onto the shirt is still going strong, but from the beginning, it was a fail. So it doesn't even matter that it's still sticking on, because look, this isn't the original idea, you know? The original idea is to have the whole transfer be on there, you know, not just the bottom half. So no way, no way. And here we have the nufun. This one had no peeling, no lifting after pressing or washing, so that one was a good sign. And here we have it almost a year later, still going strong, no peeling, no lifting. Dude, I use this shirt to sleep, and there's like straight up no cracking. That's so crazy. Just look at that. It does stretch with the shirt. You see how it stretches? And then you bring it back and it just comes back to its original shape. It's not like the other ones where you stretch it and it's just like straight up lifting. This one just feels as if it's actually adhered onto the shirt, like it became part of the shirt. It's not like the others that actually looks and feels like paper. So this one is definitely impressive, because look at that. After a year of washing, wearing, tossing and turning at night, it looks like that. These next few are also from March of 2022, and these are for dark materials. So first up we have Avery. So this one in the original video, it did press nicely, but since I went in with a parchment paper that seemed to be a little bit wavy, the transfer turned a little bit wavy, and it did survive the wash. So here we have it a year later. It's still going strong, there's no lifting. The little corner that was lifted in the original video is still there, but other than that, there's no extra lifting. And I will say that whole wavy pattern that was in the original video, I feel like is still there. It's definitely not completely flat like the others, so it still has some sort of pattern going on because of the original parchment paper. And there does seem to be some sections just losing part of their transfer. Do you see like the white parts? So yeah, so definitely after time, I feel like this one is gonna start seeing little white dots and some of the transfer is gonna go missing. This shirt in particular, I haven't really washed that many times because it's only been a year and I've only worn it less than 5 times. So it definitely hasn't been washed a lot, but for those 5 times, you can definitely see a difference for some of these. Next up, we have Starcraft. This one, in the original video, there was no peeling, no lifting, none of that after pressing or washing. And here we have it a year later. Still no peeling, still no lifting. This one for sure is still going strong. It has the cleanest cut out of all of them. The only slight difference I would say is maybe this little corner. It has that white particle that it lost. But I feel like if I go back into the original video, that little section is going to be missing. So definitely no biggie. But yeah, this one for sure. Still going strong, still pressed nicely. 2 thumbs up. Then we have PPD. This one in the original video, there was no peeling or lifting or none of that. And here we have it a year later. I don't really feel like that's the case. There's definitely no lifting or anything around the edges, but do you see how it has some sort of waves going on? So it's definitely not flat like it was in the original. It just created some sort of waves, which doesn't look good. Next up, we have a nufun, and this one in the original video did have some discoloration after the first wash. And here we have it a year later. As you could see, the discoloration just continued and the missing particles. Do you see that? How many white spots it has going on? it hasn't even been that many washes. I would say 5 at the max. This is what happened after 5 washes. I can't even imagine after like 15, you know. And apart from it being discolored, I'm not sure if you can even tell, but it did cause some waves on it. So these waves are definitely more smaller and more intense than this one right here. But yeah, it's just straight up wavy, straight up discoloration. No bueno. Last but not least, we have the transourdream glow in the dark, and this one is from September 2022. So in the original video after the first press, this transfer was super saturated. There was no peeling. It really glowed in the dark. It was very bright, very glowy. And then after the first wash, you could slightly tell that it lost some of its saturation. And then the glow effect wasn't as bright as it was before the first wash. And here you have it 7 months later. It's still on the shirt, no lifting, no peeling, none of that. But I will say in comparison to the way it looked originally, I do feel like there's some slight difference with the saturation of it. I feel like with every wash, it's just slowly fading and fading and fading. And you could especially tell on the shadows, like those black parts aren't as black as they once were. You could just straight up tell that they're losing their darkness. And then with the glow, we're gonna see if it's still as glowy as it was the first time. So let's turn off these lights and see how glowy it is. And here we have it in the dark. As you can see, it's still glowing, but definitely not as glowy as it was in the original. But it's still cool to see. You could still tell what it is. Definitely not as bright, but I still think this glow effect thing is so cool and I love it. And now I just want to do a 5-minute span of this transfer in comparison to the original, just to see if there's like a super major difference after multiple washes, and to see if the glow effect completely went down or it's still sort of the same. So after all of that and comparing how they look now versus how they did in the beginning, I do have some favorites and some that I would 100% recommend. So first up, of course, is gonna have to go to nufun for light materials. This one is the one that surprised me the most. This shirt, I wear it to sleep, toss and turn into it because I'm a crazy sleeper. And look, it's still intact. It does have some slight cracking, but that's only if you stretch it and then it just goes back to its image. So this 100% I'm going to continue to use and would 100% recommend it because look at that. It's a sleep shirt and it's still intact. And I even have it on this shirt as well, and it's the same thing. It's still going strong. It has its few cracks when you stretch it. Let me show you. You stretch it, it goes back like nothing happened. So 100% nufun for light materials I will continue to wear. Another one that I like as well is the starcraft for dark materials. This one is still intact. I wear this normally so it doesn't get washed like I do like PJs and stuff, but I still like how it looks. The only downfall would be like the folds and stuff, but I could get over that. I like how this one looks. There's no lifting. It does seem to be on the shirt, so I definitely like this one. Not as much as I would say like the nufun for light materials, but I like the fact that I have a favorite for dark materials, you know? So we have the nufun for light materials and the starcraft for dark materials. So I'm so glad that there's one for each, you know? Even though you could use the dark materials obviously on a light shirt, you can't really use the light materials on a dark shirt, but at least I have both options, you know? And I did want to give an honorable mention to the transourdream glow in the dark transfer paper. This one, there's no lifting. I love the way it looks. Like when you first do it, this whole thing, the glowing and the way it looks is just straight up saturated, straight up glowy. I love it. It does suck that after multiple washes, it slowly starts to fade and lose its glowiness. But if you could just get even like 5 wears out of this, I think it's so cool. I use this to sleep. I haven't even checked to see if it like glows in the dark in the night. I don't think it does because it's not really in front of like a light when I put it on, but I still think this is cool. If you want to use it once, I think it's cool. If you want to use it a few times, maybe not in the long run, but still, it's still holding on to life. It still glows a little bit, maybe not as much as when you first do it, but I still think this is so cool. So definitely try this one out if you can. So those are definitely my top 3. So we have the nufun for light materials, starcraft for dark materials, and then the transourdream glow in the dark. There's a whole bunch of transfer papers out there, and I still want to continue to do these comparisons because I think it's so fun to figure out which ones actually work for me and which ones are complete fails. That way I know not to stick to that brand, you know, the ones that are complete fails, because as you saw, I have had many fails. I'm still going to continue to find some good ones and bad ones. So definitely let me know if there are any transfer papers out there that you want me to try out. And always remember, what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. Different people work differently, and transfer papers, I guess, are definitely way more sensitive than when it comes to like HTV. HTV, I feel like it's pretty easy for everyone. Like you press it, it's gonna say, it's not gonna be completely different than an actual transfer paper because you're dealing with like a picture and then paper, so it's different. It might not stick, it might. So always remember, it just depends. Depends on what you're pressing with, depends on how much pressure, depends on the shirt you're using, the transfer paper you're using. There's just a whole bunch of factors that go into it. So definitely play around with something if it doesn't work out the first time. I know for me personally, I've tried out some more than once and I've gotten the same result results, so I just know not to use it again. But if it works for you, then keep on doing it, even if it didn't work for me. Just continue experimenting, try different things. It might work one way, it might not work another way. Just keep doing you, keep trying. Like, it doesn't hurt to try, you know? These usually come in packs anyway, so just try it out in like an old shirt first and then go in with like your actual shirt. So definitely keep trying these out because your results might be different. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this little comparison on how some of these transfer papers look like now versus how they did months and even years ago. I do want to do a version of this with HTVs. I have way more of those to show than transfer papers, but I definitely want to do it. I think that might be my next video, so be on the lookout for that. So thank you guys once again for watching. Don't forget to leave me your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and yeah, I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.